Hello, I'm Rachel from Douentza Garden in Ireland, and you are very welcome to this houseplant repotting video. And today we're dealing with Strelitzia, which is the iconic South African bird of paradise plant. Now, this is a very popular pot plant, and if you treat it well, then it will reward you with its fantastic neon orange flowers. It's quite a robust plant and it does need regular repotting. So today, that's what we're going to do. Today is the day that I'm going to repot my Strelitzia, my bird of paradise plant. And I just want to thank everybody who took part in my recent polls on Facebook and on YouTube asking you which house plants you wanted to see me repot. Now, there were other suggestions and I have ordered some potting mixes, so when those come you can be sure that the most popular votes are going to have their way and I'll be repotting those plants before very long. But today we are dealing with Strelitzia. Now you may ask, how do you know when your bird of paradise plants needs repotting? And the truth is that this plant, it likes to be slightly pot bound, but you can tell that it needs repotting when the roots start to bulge. And if I bring the pot in closer, you can see that the fleshy roots of this plant are trying to escape from the bottom of the pot, and that's a definite indication that I need to get on with repotting it. Now, when to do it, and it's a plant that can really be repotted at any time of year. However, if you're keeping it cooler, like in a greenhouse that's kept at a minimum of 5 degrees centigrade, that's 41 Fahrenheit, then winter is not the time to repot this plant. Mine, however, lives indoors, and so I'm quite happy to deal with it now. I guess the first thing we need to do is to take this pot off and see what we're dealing with. And already, as I squish my hands around the edge of the pot, I can feel that the fleshy roots of this plant are filling it to the brim. It's always fun and games trying to get a Strelitzia out of a pot, and for this reason I always recommend using a plastic pot, because if you use a ceramic one or a terracotta one, likely as not you're going to end up breaking the pot in an attempt to get the plant out. So let's just turn this upside down and see where we go. So this plant of mine is actually a seedling. It's 1.5 years old. Can you believe that? And already it's, well, it's providing me with a substantial plant. I mean, you could buy this in a garden centre and you'd never dream for a moment it was so young. But I know it's 1.5 years because I was given it as a gift from a friend. Thank you, Dimitri. And so it's been in my care for a bit over 1 year. Now this is not moving very well at all. Let's turn it upside down where we can see how the root is pressing against the base of the pot. And I think what I'm going to have to do is to cut the pot, and this is the reason why I recommend always using plastic pot. Now, whenever I make a repotting video, there's always a cohort that admonishes me for wrecking a plastic pot, and I just say, well, better a plastic pot than a clay pot or a ceramic one. Still won't come out, and it's probably because the root is firmly ensconced there in the hole. Now, I do not want to damage the roots. It is a sturdy plant. It will probably regenerate without much problem, but damaging roots is not something I really like to do. Also, I want this to grow quickly and vigorously, because you have to remember that from seed a Strelitzia can take 6 to 10 years to flower. Yes, 6 to 10 years. And I would rather if that were 6 than 10. We can see the fleshy roots already. Wow. So I'm going to try and push the root in from the outside. Oh, it really doesn't want to go. I'm going to have to try and cut around this root and hope I don't damage it. Okay, so I haven't quite cut through the plastic here. Oh, I've just managed to break it up with my fingers. There we go. Whoa! So just removing the label, and actually you can see from the label that I originally thought this was Strelitzia Nicolai, which is the big black bird of paradise, but no, I don't think so. Dimitri didn't think so. He was the one who grew it from seed. So let's just worry some of the mix off and see what we have in the way of roots. And we do have a really healthy looking root system. Look at that. Okay, I'm not going to remove any more of the mix from the plant. It's not like the mix has degraded or anything, so I will just leave some on. Now, you may ask, when did I last repot this plant? Because the roots are pushing at the end of it. And I have to tell you that I repotted this plant just 6 months ago. Yes, in June, just 6 months ago. And it may be an indication of the mix I used. I'm using the Cybotanica Calathea and Marantha mix, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a moment, but it may be just that it is a very vigorous plant, and certainly if you have a seedling it wants to grow, so if you give it the right conditions then hopefully it will just get on with the job. There's something really attractive about Strelitzia roots. They smack of a caudex plant, and a caudex plant of course is one where the roots are on display, so it's something that stores moisture in its roots, and of course this plant here is going to be storing moisture in its roots too. And wouldn't it be just wonderful if we could have all of these fantastic roots on display rather than hiding them away in a pot, but hide them we must. So now we need to consider pot size, and I'm going again for a plastic pot, surprise surprise, and I'm using the pot that is the next size up. So this is the plant, and if I put it in here you can see that there's about 2 inches between the edge of the plant and the edge of the pot, and that's considered, you know, that's the next size up. I'm also using a slightly deeper pot than it is wide, which will be good for these roots because they really want to extend down. Now the temptation is always with a vigorous plant like this to choose a large pot. However, if you choose a large pot, and the reason you might choose a large pot is you think, well, I'll save myself a bit of work because I don't want to be potting this every 6 months like I'm doing, right? But if you choose a pot that's too big for the plant, then it's going to throw your watering off whack, and you'll probably end up watering the plant when you shouldn't and end up rotting the roots. So Strelitzia, in terms of watering, it's a plant that likes humidity and it likes sun, it likes a lot of light. So you are going to keep it just moist. So in spring and summer, you're going to keep the medium just moist. And then in winter, you're only going to water when it dries out completely. and that is difficult to do if your pot is too big. So the next thing to consider is potting mix. Now I am using a potting mix by a company called Botanica, and they have premium mixes for a variety of houseplants. It's fantastic because all of these mixes are peat free, and as we all know, we want to move away from using peat in our potting mixes because it is bad for the environment, detrimental to the environment in fact. And Botanica provide a very good alternative, more than an alternative, because actually if you look up information online to see what potting mix to use for Strelitzia, you'll probably find that the information given is 3 parts soil or compost and 1 part grit, and the grit is to provide good drainage. Well, yes, those are the basic needs of the plant. It needs something that will give kind of a minimal, at a minimum, some nutrition, and it needs good drainage so that the roots don't rot. However, Botanica have this mix, the Calathea and Marantha mix, which is specifically formulated for Strelitzia. And if you check out their website, you can see from the tabs at the top, there's one called Tools and Blogs. There you'll find the Soil Guide, and this page tells you which mix to use for which houseplant. And if you go down there, you'll find Strelitzia nicolai, that's the botanic name, but in the description you'll see that the mix that they recommend, i.e. the Calathea and Marantha mix, is also suitable for Strelitzia reginae, which is the plant that I'm potting up today. And what is in this mix that makes it so good? Well, let's just pour it out and see for ourselves. So as we can see, this mix is very light and airy with plenty of perlite and vermiculite to do the job of adding good drainage. The mix contains worm castings, cocoa coir, activated carbon, perlite, vermiculite, DCM organic nutrients, and if you check on the website they'll recommend an addition of 20% cocoa husk, which I don't have, so we are going to just leave that out. I'm sure the added nutrition in this mix has helped my Strelitzia grow big and bouncy, and that brings me on to the question of fertilisation. So you do need to feed Strelitzia in its growing seasons with a high nitrogen fertiliser. Here we go, and I'm going to put some of the mix at the base of my pot. And then manoeuvre my plant into place. That's a bit too deep. I'm going to just raise it up a little bit higher, putting in another shovelful, and that I think is the same level that it was at before. And this is always important with all plants, to bury them to the same depth that they were before, except with seedlings. That's just a little bit different. And there we go, that's my my Strelitzia repotted. It's going to go back into the bathroom, which is where it lives in the house. And that brings me on to a very important point in terms of growing Strelitzia. Now, many people in Ireland anyway believe that you can grow a Strelitzia in a cool greenhouse, one that has a 5-degree minimum in winter, that's 41 Fahrenheit. Well, you can. It's going to live, it's going to tick over, but it certainly won't thrive. And you want your Strelitzia to thrive, because the foliage is all very nice, but wouldn't it be absolutely wonderful to actually have this plant in flower? And you're not going to do that if you treat it badly. So this is a plant that needs to be brought into the house in winter. It needs a 10-degree centigrade minimum, which is 50 Fahrenheit, and for most of us that means bringing it indoors into the house. It can go out to the greenhouse or out into the garden in summer, but you know, you do need to keep it warm. It likes heat, it likes humidity, it likes good light. Don't we all really, when it comes down to it? So there we go, that's my Strelitzia repotted. And some of you who've been following the channel for a long time may recall that I have made a couple of videos about Strelitzia. There was one where I repotted my large first Strelitzia, which is no more. And that video, for some reason, was really, really popular. I looked at it again today and I really don't understand why. But anyway, I also made a video about Ravenala, which is the traveller's palm, a giant, fabulous plant that I can't grow in the same family as the Strelitzia. So I will link to both of those videos here at the end, and maybe you will check them out. And then I guess it just remains for me to hope and send you my best wishes, and to hope that you're doing well this cold and rainy season, all set for Christmas if you celebrate. And I hope that you're certainly taking it easy and perhaps enjoying your houseplants. I hope to have more houseplant repotting videos coming your way very soon. And in the meantime, it's cold out here. I'm going to bring this poor, long-suffering Strelitzia back into the house and park it on the windowsill of my bathroom after I give it a bit of watering. But not with the horrible cold water out here. It would shock it to death. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. Bye.